Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Lots to talk about the night after, the morning after the night before, and the protests at Manchester United. And I think, look, we're all waking up with a lot more information in our head, aren't we? There's a lot of things I'm going to say about this. A disappointment about certain journalists and their reaction to this. I think it's a shame, a really big shame, when we're trying to build unity. I'm somewhat. Look, I was looking at. I actually went back yesterday, and what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so Sancho price set by Dortmund. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Glazers not willing to sell, not looking to sell, despite what happened yesterday. That doesn't surprise me. I think there needs to be far more action taken. You don't make change by doing one big protest. You've got to keep it up, of course. And then obviously the reaction of the mainstream media as well as other people in basically castigating Manchester United fans yesterday because the actions of a minority, when the majority message was very, very clear that Manchester United fans have had enough. And I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed in relation to the reaction of it. That, you know, 2 weeks ago when the European Super League was being put out, this was a war on football. You can't call it a war on football and then moan when there's consequences. And there was consequences yesterday. You can't stoke the fire of the fans because you want to keep hold of your broadcasting rights, and you want to keep hold of the players in the Premier League and then the Champions League, and you want to keep hold of, you know, your best interest. You can't stoke the fans up and use them to get what you want, and then when you've got what you want, 2 weeks later have a go at those fans. And that's basically what it feels. That's what's happened, isn't it? I'm not surprised by it. I'm not even disappointed about it. You can't trust these organisations, whether they're media organisations, football organisations or governmental organisations. It doesn't suit them at the moment to need the fans, because 2 weeks they did and now they don't. But it was their words. This is a war on football. And then they moan about the consequences. Of course, the violent element yesterday was disturbing. Of course it was. You don't want to see that. But it was a minority, an absolute minority. And I'm absolutely 100% behind the fact that a non-violent protest or criminal protest has probably got more success if it's sustained. But the reality is, let me put it like this. I'm stunned this morning that the media are focusing on a few hundred fans getting onto a football pitch, compared to owners who over 15 years have taken hundreds of millions of pounds out of this football club and basically sabotaged and destroyed it. Manchester United, to me, and I would presume to any football fan, whether you support Liverpool or Arsenal, Manchester United is a club of historical reference. You get grade listed buildings in this country that have architectural and historical relevance, and they are protected. Buckingham Palace is one of those buildings. Westminster Abbey is one of those buildings. But it's not just those big things, it's other things as well. Manchester United is of historical reference. It should be protected. And it should be grade 1 listed, whatever you want to call Old Trafford. So imagine Buckingham Palace, right, got bought by some billionaire. They just let it go into ruin, and they took loads of money out of it. And people protested to stop the bulldozers, damaging it anymore. I'm sure people had moaned about those protesters then. People don't understand what Manchester United fans are doing. I watched Match of the Day last night, and they had Jermaine Genius on, and he sat there with his chest saying, I don't really understand what it's all about. But then basically, and I don't know whether he intended this, but he basically came across that we're a bunch of greedy fans who realistically should be happy with what we've got. Then they get Andy Mitten on, who tries to explain about it, and they still don't get it. The reality is, in most simplest terms, Manchester United fans have had enough. Manchester United is of historical reference to us. It matters. It's an institution that should be protected, and it's being damaged. And therefore, people are protesting to protect it. We are protecting a historical reference organisation. We're protecting something that matters. That's what the protests are about. It's not because we haven't signed Jadon Sancho last summer. It's not because the Glazers haven't spent money. It's because of the damage they've done to the club. I'm fully aware they've spent nearly £800 million. They've spent it badly, but they've spent it. But they've taken nearly 3 times that out of the club. So the club needs renovating. It's not all about playing staff. The club is a mess from top to bottom. And I think that people don't understand this. We are protesting about something as real as anything else. To Manchester United fans, it's real. Of course, there are bigger issues to protest about, but it's not a competition about what you shouldn't and shouldn't protest for. Thousands of people are very, very unhappy, and I think that if you don't understand that, don't comment on it. And I've seen a lot of people this morning and last night commenting on things they haven't got a bloody clue about. They're putting people on the BBC who are openly sitting there and going, I don't really understand what it's all about, but I don't agree with it. Well, shut your mouth. If you don't understand it, button it. Don't have an opinion on something you don't understand. I can't go on the Bake Off and talk about what's the best omelette because I don't really know what it is. I can taste it and go, well, that means a little bit more salt, but I'm not a bloody cook. Get Gordon Ramsay on. Get Manchester United fans. If you don't understand it and you don't want to understand it, then just don't comment on it. But the disappointing thing is that to focus on the negatives. The negatives are somebody kicked a door in, loads of people went on the pitch, and a police officer got injured by a bottle slicing his face. That you don't want that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to talk about this in a minute. There were other incidents that were not very good, but in the vast majority, the message was clear. This is a protest about the owners of this club destroying something that matters to so many people. And it's 15 years in the making. And losing a 90-minute game for 15 years of this is a drop in the ocean, to be honest with you. But unity is key. They're going to try and divide us. I can't remember the last time a former Man United player went on Match of the Day, says Loopy. Just educate yourselves. Educate yourselves or don't comment on it. The reality is that there are many protests out there that end up with incidents. This is not. I mean, they're acting like this is the first protest in the world to have a couple of incidents that weren't, great. They all do. Most protests will have that. You can't start a fire without a spark. And there was a few sparks yesterday, and some of them, they were regrettable. But ultimately, the big message is, as many people who know this story, this is about the Glazers. Who's the victim of people getting on the pitch? The Glazers. Why are the press talking about trespassing and vandalism when actually the bigger message is that this is Manchester United fans trying to reclaim their club? The victim in the trespassing is the Glazers. Is it not lost on them, the symbolism of breaking into Manchester United's football ground? Which is wrong, but the symbolism of it is the victim in this is the Glazers. It's their football ground. They own it. And everybody who allowed that to happen needs to stand up and try and stop it from happening. Fletch and KG mentioned in one of their videos that there's someone with £90 billion. Please, can you find out more? Says Tom. I've got no idea who they're on about, Tom. I'm not aware of that. Not aware of that at all. And also, as we know, Manchester United do have people who will be feeding the press with all sorts of stuff. Manchester police have come out. There's going to be investigations to things. But yesterday cannot be the end of it. There has to be more. And I personally, I think that there does need to be more done, and there needs to be more done around things that are for everybody to get involved in. Protests like that, you're always going to get a minority of people that are there to cause trouble. This happens at every protest. It's not exclusive to Manchester United or Arsenal or protests about COVID or more serious matters. You will always get an element of people there that are there to cause trouble. This is not breaking news. So the media running with that, they're doing that for what? 2 weeks ago you weren't doing that. So I think that the message needs to be clear. And I'm not comparing the Manchester United protest yesterday to any other cause, but what I'm saying is when you think back to other protests that have happened, and there used to be a lot in the UK in the 70s about various things, they need to be sustained. One event. There's a report today from, I think it's ESPN, saying that the Glazers have got no intention of selling. They like the status of owning Manchester United, and they know full well that when the ground opens up, there'll be 75,000 fans there every week again. That arrogance is I'm not even angry about it. That arrogance is true. That is true. The Glazers will not sell because of yesterday. They will expect 75,000 people there every week. They will expect to sell record shirts if and when they buy Jadon Sancho. Of course they will, because they've been here before. It's down to us as fan base to stay united and actually show them that that's not going to happen. They need to be hit in the pocket. That's the next thing that needs to happen. The Glazers need to be hit in the pocket. There's many ways that can be done, but it needs to be unity. It needs to be unity, and which is why I'm going to bring this up. Look, I'm really unhappy about this. On a personal level, I'm not, but as in relation to unity, I'm really unhappy about this, and I'm going to call it out because it's not a minority. There were people yesterday who were, singing things and shouting at people and being a bit intimidated. You're going to get that. I get that. I get that some people do not like fan content. I get that. And I've had conversations with people about it in the past, and I think there is a responsibility to try and, cater for everybody. But there's some people who just don't like it. They don't like it. That's the way of the world. Some people do, some people don't. I respect that. That's absolutely fine. The United Stand over the last 10 days has had conversations with people we never would have had a conversation with before the Super League. Without condition, without apology on either side, just a common goal to be united and work together. And my stance has always been, this community that United Stand has, whether it's 500,000 followers on Twitter, 1 million subscribers on YouTube, or whatever on Instagram, whatever, it's a huge voice that can be used in this trying to bring about change at the football club. And whether you don't like fan content or you do, going off and going, we don't like fan content, this, that and the other, and then trying to get a message out, you're just biting your nose off to spite your face. It doesn't make any sense. And I think even people that don't like fan content, they get that. They understand that. So very disappointed to see yesterday that Samuel Luckhurst, who I have always said has a very good ear at Manchester United. When he said that United had spoken to Pochettino, I said that's probably true because he's got the ear of people in Manchester United and he's got sources. He's always been bitter about fan channels. He was the one when Flex was in an interview for the press conference and said to Ollie, what do you think, we're doing really well at the moment, and he took the piss out of Flex for using the reference we, because journalists don't use the word we, but we're fans and we do use the word we. He's always had a bitterness towards fan content, and yesterday this is what he said when reporting on this yesterday. He said there were no half and half scarf sellers under the Smack Busby statue. Some members from a fan TV channel turned up but were so distant they may as well have been on the barge on the River Irwell. You can stick your fucking YouTube up your arse, was the chant. I mean, what is that all about? If it's not about division, if it's not about elitism, why is he writing things like that? Now, this is a person that I have constantly referenced in the news show and said, look, whatever you think about them, he does get information from the club. So this bitterness, and look, on less serious terms, we've seen his constant agenda to get Dean Henderson in goal. The ridiculous player ratings he'll give one goalkeeper and then not the other. But I'm sorry, I'm appalled by that. In an article that's going to get read by loads, fan content gets lumped in with half and half scarves. What a disgusting, elitist approach in a time where we need a united fan base. Inciting division within the fan base. Irresponsible journalism at a level I never thought I would see. I woke up this morning not happy about some of the things that happened, but encouraged by the unity of what this fan base has achieved over the last few days. To read from Manchester United's Manchester Evening News lead head Manchester United correspondent likening a massive community to half and half scarves, and also on top of that, basically calling fan content cowardly because it was stood in the River Irwell. We were live yesterday on the United Stand for an hour, right amongst it. The video evidence is there. Security, health and safety, all that was taken into account, and still Flex, Josh went in there to bring you the content of what was going on. And you've got a journalist who was last seen outside Hotel Football, probably running inside it, slagging off fan content, who is out there spreading the word of Manchester United wanting the Glazers out to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who couldn't be there. But one man, again, lets his bitterness overtake what the actual message should be. Unity in the fan base, utilising all the strengths we have as a fan base to get this message out. But one bitter man has to make it about his bitter agenda about fan content again. And I'll tell you what, I could say a lot worse, but I will tell you this. I've been in contact with him many times before and said, have a conversation with us about fan content because you're constantly going in on it. You're a person in position in power. You should sit down as a journalist and get both sides. No, he won't do it. He's not. In my mind, that is appalling as a journalist to do that. And look, I'll continue to say he's got the ear of people at Manchester United because he has, but I'm disgusted by that. Journalism to me is in the mud anyway. So many don't bother getting the other side. So many is about opinion. Fan content is about opinion. If you want to be about opinion as a journalist, start a fucking fan channel. Do not write in credible outlets with years of history and just impose your opinion on people. I'm disgusted by that. I'm disgusted by that. To basically say that fan channels were not welcome and they were hiding is bullshit. And it's divisive. And you know what it is as well? It's playing to those fans who, I'm sorry, you're in the minority. That, you know, you just think you want your club, you want the club your way for you. Well, that's not Manchester United. It isn't. It's elitist. And we're trying to remove the Glazers from this football club and get the football club back. And you've got somebody doing something like that. And I will call it out. And I'll tell you what, I'll say to Samuel Luckhurst, get on the United stand and you can have your say and I'll have my say, but he won't bloody do it. In a time where we're trying to build unity, you've got somebody who is absolutely, I mean, I spoke to Flex about it this morning, appalled, absolutely disgusted by it. He said, we were right in amongst it, filming it. You know, at times it was getting a bit moody, but we were there. Disgusted, absolutely disgusted. And I will call it out. I will call it out because somebody with a position of power like that is speaking as one person. When we go live, there's hundreds of people in the live chats giving their opinion. I'm disgusted by it. It's dictatorship. It's elitism. It's dangerous. It's divisive. And also, mate, you write for the Manchester Evening News. Who owns the Manchester Evening News? You think you're an independent voice. You're not. You're not. You're a puppet to your owners. And actually, I think that article, for all the good bits that were in it, I think that is so divisive, so disappointing, and I will call it out. And people should call it out because it's disgusting. It's disgusting to do something like that after what was achieved yesterday and to try and make out that 1 million subscribers and 500,000 people on Twitter are like half and half fans. So that's what you are, people. You're nothing. You're not real fans. Not according to that. Bollocks. Absolute nonsense. It pisses me off because people are working so hard to bring about change. They're working so hard to bring about change. And people like that are just agendas. Do you think Sancho news is a PR spin, says Fian? Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Jeff says, let's get this trending. I feel like you, Mark, journalism is driven by the big boys. They aren't real fans. You can't trust the journalists. You can't trust them. You know, you can't trust them in that sense because it's always they're going to do that. Can't win. If Flex was on the park, he would have said, "Look at YouTube going too far," says Daz OW. And look, I'm not gonna deny that there was things going on yesterday. There was reports of people being abused for wearing United shirts. There was talk of people being, manhandled. There was talk about people being told they weren't welcome. That was always going to happen. It was always going to be, a very fiery protest. And as I said, you can't cry war on football and then, start moaning when there's consequences. And I think the media had a big part to play in that. But ultimately, the message is the Glazers out. Do I think they're going to sell? No. Do I think they're right when they say, well, they expect 75,000 fans to turn up? Yes, I do. And I think they know that's going to happen. And I do think when you lead into what we're going to talk about now, this is the other side of it, the Jadon Sancho thing. With Jadon Sancho, it's coming out this morning that Borussia Dortmund want to sell Jadon Sancho before the Euros, and they want to sell him for about £75 million. Now, I said a few days ago that if Manchester United are going to make a marquee signing, it's highly likely to be Jadon Sancho. I suppose the question is, do you think? I'll ask it myself, but ask it you as well. Do you think Manchester United are going to sign Jadon Sancho this summer? I do, yeah. I mean, if you saw yesterday, Man United have got the £75 million for Jadon Sancho. So I think they will spend it on Jadon Sancho. And I think he will get the number 7 shirt. And I think masses of you will buy the shirt. And I think that's the end of Glazers out. So yeah, I'm not going to not be honest. That is my opinion. They will sign Jadon Sancho or something like it. He will wear the new shirt around the same time and you will buy it. And 75,000 people will turn up next year. And Ollie will be the manager next year. And when asked about it, Ollie will say, well, they've always supported me. And that'll be the end of it. That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I always thought was going to happen. There is a battle ongoing to try and remove the Glazers from Manchester United's ownership. But I'm under no illusions that I think that we will probably lose that battle because I do think that the manipulating tactics that we've seen time and time again will be brought out. There's no way that Manchester United are sat there this morning going, well, we're not that bothered. You know, it's a major event to cancel a major event like Manchester United versus Liverpool. And there will be conversations going on. And, you know, the media's already in full spin. They're already being briefed, let's be honest. And that will continue. To be honest with you, if I was, and I'm a Manchester United fan, so I'm never going to do this. But if I had the ear of the Glazers and I was being paid by the Glazers and I wasn't a fan of football or Manchester United, but I worked at Manchester United, which seems to be that. Can I just say that seems to be the criteria for working in Manchester United's board? Not a fan of football and not a fan of Manchester United. I mean, can you tell me anybody on the board or owner who is actually a football fan or a Manchester United fan? So straight away, you've got no attachment to the fans anyway. You get the phone call from Joel or Avram saying, you know, that wasn't good yesterday. How do we sort it out? Don't worry, Joel. This is what I would do. First things first, we need the media to turn on the fans and basically out all the vandalism and anything that went wrong. Just keep doing that. Keep creating division. We need to do that. And also, I think this summer, sign Jadon Sancho. We've got the money anyway. We've got new kits coming out. Adidas are a bit unhappy. Sign Jadon Sancho. Everyone will be happy. Everyone will buy the shirt. Next season, it's all forgotten. We crack on for a few more years. We keep making the money. We don't reinvest in the stadium or anything like that. One signing, it all goes away. And that will be the plan. And you might not like that, but that will be the plan, which is why it will be very, very difficult, and people will have to, you know, park the whole. Do you want change or do you want to continue down the road that we're on? And I do think that United will sign Sancho in the summer, because I think if they don't sign anybody, then it allows the fires to keep burning. But if you do sign somebody, then it will put, you know, I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope people don't fall into that trap. But, you know, as I've said, to me, the easiest way to deal with this is that if United played yesterday, when they play on Thursday, when they play in the Europa League final, you support the players and you support Solskjaer and you differentiate them from what the ownership is. So if Sancho does come in, he becomes a player that you support for the players, but the ownership is something very different. Look, what I would like to see, and if it took this, I wouldn't be bothered about it. I would like to see, you know, fans supporting the players and the manager, but, you know, the club being squeezed at the top in relation to finances. I want to see the club sold or the Glazers removed. So the only way you're going to do that is by hitting them in the pocket. So that's the only way I see change happening. But whether we can do that, I think the time is now to I don't think you can wait a few weeks and then say to people, oh, you know, let's write to sponsors, or let's stop selling shirts, or let's mass unsubscribe from MUTV. I think you need to be doing that, you know, very, very soon. There is a momentum. You don't look, and I don't like the word war, but this was used by the media 2 weeks ago. You don't go to war with somebody, right? Have a big victory in a battle like yesterday, and then go, let's leave it for a couple of months. You've got to take the initiative and keep pushing. If you think about, I'm not well educated on this, and I may be, you know, some of this may be fictitious, but I think I remember watching The Crown or something a few weeks ago, and there was Churchill was in charge, I think, so it must have been in like the 50s or something like that, and I think that there was a coal short, something to do with. I don't even know what I'm talking about now. I've lost my space. But at the end of the day, if you think about coal strikes, or you think about issues with, electricity and things like that, the more something happens, the more pissed off people become, the more likely change will happen. It must be sustained. Whatever you're going to do, it can't be one event. It's got to be more and more. And I don't think a protest like yesterday can keep happening every week, because the police are never going to be as disorganised again. Manchester United are never going to be as disorganised again. So the protest will never be the same as that. And can you get that many people up there again? You need new and innovative ways to keep the club on their toes and the media aware that fans are unhappy. And I have to say this as well. I personally think that, you know, and I think history shows it as well. I saw something on the BBC last night as well, that the vast majority of successful protests are non-violent protests, and you know that should be, and that is the aim of what Manchester United fans are trying to do. Legacy stands stopping the game with millions waiting to watch. Got to hurt keeping these people where it matters. Enough is enough. This is just the start, says Bree Shaw. But if you squeeze the club for finances, you're making Man United less attractive to buy. It's a sticky situation, says Arito. No. I don't want to listen to any of that. I mean, look, that's an opinion, and of course, people have just listened to it. But I don't want to listen to things like that. Well, let's not do anything because people might not want to buy us. The reality is this has been going on for 15 years. This is not because of the Super League. It goes way, way deeper than that. The club has been basically run into the ground. The hardest thing, I think, for people to get their head around, and I've always had my head around this, and I'm sure many of you have, you get people who don't understand the story. You even get some United fans, but you get a lot of non-United fans who will say, but you've spent 900 billion in the last 10 years. How have the Glazers not invested in the club? And you go, you know what? You know that nose that's in a beehive? Take it out before I sting it 100 times. Because don't stick your nose in something you don't understand. It's such a basic argument to say, well, the Glazers have spent 900 million. You know, that they've invested in the club. Right, how many times do you want me to dress this up? The reality is, this club was not in debt in the early noughties. The minute the Glazers bought it, they put it into hundreds of millions of pounds of debt. Never should have been allowed in the first place. I don't know why that was allowed. I mean, look, I was very young at that time. Maybe somebody does know. But why was a football club that wasn't in debt allowed to be bought on debt? Hundreds of millions of pounds in debt for 15 years. Okay, so straight away you go, all right, they've spent 900, but we're still in debt by a long, long way. A dangerous amount of debt. On top of that, People estimate that between 1 billion and 2 billion has been lost in interest repayments on that debt and dividends going out of the club. So straight away, to people who say that Manchester United have spent 900 million, we're 500 million in debt, around that, 400 million, and £1 billion's gone out, or 1.5 billion on average, whatever. Ultimately, you're talking about close to £2 billion that never should have been taken out of this football club. That dwarfs £900 million of spending straight away. And people will say, "Oh, boo-hoo! You've lost a bit of money." But it's the club's money. It's not the Glazers' money. They leveraged debt to get hold of the club, and then they've leveraged that debt to take money out of the club. And that money, we don't need. We don't need Sheikh Mansour. We don't need Roman Abramovich. What we needed was responsible ownership, and then we would, look, yes, the money could have been spent better, but we could have spent a lot more. And ultimately, what people don't realise is as well, I almost would say that 900 million that they've spent is irrelevant when you put people in the club who are irrelevant. Like, look who's been spending that money. Matt Judge, Ed Woodward. They're clueless. They're not Manchester United people. They're not football people. If you go and send your gran down to the high-powered sports car shop with a couple of million and say, get me a nice car, are you going to trust your gran to go and do it? Not unless she's got a back catalogue of Top Gear magazines. No. And that's what Man United basically did. There's a bit of money to go and buy good players, and they gave it to your gran. Like, people don't want to delve deep into the issues at Manchester United. There's a lot of debt, there's a lot of money that's gone out of the club, and the money that we've spent has been spent by prats. If I gave you that 900 million, you would spend it so differently over the last 10 years to the way Woodward and Judge and everyone else has spent it. So don't talk to me about the money that's been spent, because you know what? It's actually quite frustrating. I don't even like to acknowledge that we've spent 900 million, because we may as well have pissed it out in the wind. It's been spent badly because of the Glazers again, because they put people in charge who were bank people. Woodward was at JP Morgan was it 99? And in 2005 or 2003, he moved from JP Morgan with the Glazers to Manchester United, having helped them bought it. Where's his football acumen? What's his football background? And yet he's been at the forefront of United for the last decade, overseeing that 900 million pounds being spent. It's an irrelevant argument. The 900 million is irrelevant because we may as well have burnt it, because the people spending it were bad people in relation to what was good for Manchester United. if the Glazers had come in and gone, we're businessmen, we're just going to step back, we want football people involved, get Sir Alex Ferguson, get Sir Bobby Charlton involved, because it would have been like, 15 years ago. What are the best football people to have in charge of this football club? We want football people. Look at Bayern Munich, the way they have ex-players involved. That's what we want. Can we build a board that's, got the football? We want to make money, of course, but we want football people involved. They never did that. They brought their bank manager friends with them. So there's loads of things that are irritating about the ownership of this football club, and it's been going on longer than the Super League. Welcome to Ian Sheedy to the Members Club. Thank you. Just wanted to remind people that when Ali inevitably comments on this in the presser and condemns this, don't turn this into an Ollie out excuse, says Jack. I think Jack's right. What we've got to do, and the reason I mentioned that from old Mr. Luckhurst, and the reason I mentioned the media this morning trying to make it about the violence or the hooliganism or whatever they want to call it. This is all about division. The next step, I said it last night, leave the media with the fallout of yesterday. And I think this is really important. Leave the media with what happened yesterday. We should be working on the next thing. Because you know what? I don't think there is anything that's going to happen tomorrow. But imagine we wake up tomorrow and there's another thing. Well, the media can't talk about Sunday anymore because there's another thing now. We don't need to justify what happened yesterday as a fan base. The message is clear. Glazers out. Next, on to the next thing. That's what needs to happen. And I'm not turning a blind eye, by the way. I don't agree with some of the things that happened yesterday. And I don't think a lot of people don't agree with some of the things that happened yesterday. But the reality is, that's a minority. And they'll probably get dealt with. There's one person kicking a door in and it's the same person throwing the camera. So, they're going to get dealt with. Leave that to the police, leave that to the club, whatever. The reality is, the message was Glazers out. And the message is still Glazers out. And most of us want to do that in a legal, proper way, and we move to the next step. And that's let the media condemn and moan about yesterday. Move on to the next step, because they're not going to come with us anyway. So why are we trying to convince them? They're going to try and divide, as we've seen this morning with what I've already spoken about. They're going to try and divide and conquer because it's in their interest to do that. Because ultimately, if everything stays the same, the Sky and the BT subscriptions, the pundits, the newspapers that get their information from the club, all the money that comes from the fans, everything continues. They're just trying to protect the status quo. And these media companies, let's be honest, who owns these media companies? You might think that Sky is Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. You might think that BT is Rio Ferdinand and Paul Scholes. You might think a certain newspaper is, you might think the BBC is Simon Stone. You might think that, another paper that you like is that journalist that you like. And these are all great people. But what I'm saying is, who are they working for? Who pays their wages? Who's at the very top? And are they going to be pro fans, or are they going to be more business minded like the Glazers? So the media ain't going to come with us. They're not. This is down to the fans to make change, and it's going to be very, very difficult. But unity is very important, and the only message that's important is get the Glazers out of Manchester United Football Club. And the same at Arsenal with Kroenke. That's the message: change and reform in football. We're not the enemy. Football fans just want change and reform. They want, the fans are the underclass. They've been treated like shit for years, and that's where they want us to stay. Most of these organisations want the fans to stay where they are, because they know that the fans actually are the biggest voice. And if they can't control and suppress them, that's a dangerous thing for all the little dynasties that they've got. Never speaking to the media, hiring friends, selling cheap, overpaying, stadium is leaking. I could go on, says Carl Rayner. And when are you doing Discord again? Gives all fans a chance to be heard, in my opinion, says Jack. Well, I might do a Discord tonight, actually. If Paul Robinson's watching, maybe we'll set up a Discord tonight at 8 o'clock and we'll take some of your calls. I think that would be quite good. Yeah, definitely. That would be good. But yeah, smash a like on the video, everybody, if you're watching. Look, nobody said it was going to be easy. If you tolerate this, then your children will be next. It was never going to be easy. It was never going to be easy, and it was never going to be... I'm sorry, it was never going to be perfect. There are imperfections in what happened yesterday, of course there is. But the message from the majority is clear. And look, if there was 10,000 people there yesterday, how many people did bad things? The vast majority didn't. And there was hundreds of thousands of people watching it, United fans around the world, and they didn't do anything wrong, but they want the Glazers out. Should we stop because of that? Let's see what's to come next. I don't know what's to come next. Why don't we just keep protesting at every home game from now on and get all the games postponed? Then the Glazers will have no choice but to walk, says Harrison Whitmarsh. if you could get every Manchester United game cancelled, then there would be consequences. Of course there would. So, you know, but how easy is it to do that? That's the thing. And Gray says as well, of course there's a downside to any negativity around a protest, because people who are there to go and just protest and they're passionate about it but don't want to get caught up in, you know, police fighting and things like that probably won't attend. So the promotion always should be that this is a peaceful protest, and I think that's what the vast majority want. But you've also got to remember that there's a lot of people who are very, very angry and frustrated by this, and it matters. And I'll repeat what I said at the start. Buckingham Palace, Westminster Abbey, bloody Chatsworth House or whatever, these are all listed buildings in the UK, and a listed building is something that is of architectural and historical interest to the country. Is Manchester United Football Club not of architectural and historical interest to the country? 100%. 100%. If Westminster Abbey took over by some billionaire who wasn't even from the UK, and neglected, they never renovated it, they just kept using it to make money, do you think people would just sit back and go, that's okay, you know, let it crumble? Westminster Abbey, you know, loads of historical events have happened in that place, let's not protest, let's not get in the way of these people, let's not try and force them out. Of course they would, and every bloody media outlet would be for it. But because it's football, and because football will always historically be tainted with hooliganism, and look at those football fans, You know what's happened actually in the last 24 hours? Stereotypes have come out again. Football fans are thugs. Football fans are hooliganism. And this is where it all went wrong in the 80s. And we know what tragedies happened in the 80s because of how football fans were treated by those in power. And they need to be very careful here, because Manchester United is of historical and architectural reference to many, many people and interest. And fans are trying to protect that. 2 weeks ago, the owners of Manchester United tried to take us out of the European Cup and put us in a franchised bullshit tournament and basically shit all over what our history is around the European Cup. So Matt Busby, the Busby Babes, 1968, 1999, 2008. So, you know, would that not be like walking into Westminster Abbey and smashing down, you know, the font at the front and putting in a bloody Starbucks? I'm sure people would protest about that. They don't get it though. They don't get what Manchester United fans are protesting for. They're protesting and want these people out because they are destroying our Westminster Abbey. They are destroying what is symbolic and important to us. But because it's football, it's hooliganism. What about these people who bloody put them, you know, they chain themselves to a tree to stop bulldozers, you know, going and ruining a few trees? I mean, protests are protests. It's passionate people defending something they believe in. That should never be wrong. And of course, when it drifts into illegal activity, criminality, then that will be called out. But the message is not about criminal activity. It's not about hooliganism. It's about Manchester United Football Club being an institution that should be protected by the UK government. It should be protected by UK organisations. It should be protected by everybody, because it's football and it matters to Manchester United fans. And we wake up this morning and basically it's being twisted to defend billionaires who've got no interest in football, don't even reside in this country, have got no interest in what Manchester United's all about, but let's protect them because somebody ran on a football pitch that they shouldn't even own. Anyway, look, I could go on and on. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will be back later on today. It's bank holiday here, so probably going to be back on the 8 o'clock show, and we will try and get a Discord for people to call in. The Sancho price was 75 million, but you know, at the end of the day, I quite like the fact that Sancho was a small part of this video, because we probably will buy him. He probably will wear the number 7 shirt. Will you buy that shirt? That's the issue. Because that, to me, is that symbolises Glazers in and Glazers out. If we buy Sancho, will you buy his shirt? Glazers in. If we buy Sancho, will you not buy his shirt? Glazers out. That's the choice everybody's got to make. And it's your choice to make. That's what this is all about. Yeah, we're probably buying Sancho to get the fans back on side. Are you going to be back on side? Are you going to buy the shirt or are you not? That's the choice everybody's got to make, and I think it will come down to that sort of a thing over the next few weeks and months. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, stay safe, and look, let's stay united. Let's not be divided. Speak to you all in a bit.